cannot establish a friendship with the Supreme Lord Ramachandra on the basis of material qualities such as one's birth in an aristocratic family, one's personal beauty, one's eloquence, one's sharp intelligence, or one's superior race or nation. None of these qualifications is actually a prerequisite for friendship with Lord Sri Ramachandra. Otherwise, how is it possible that although we uncivilized inhabitants of the forest have not taken noble births, although we have no physical beauty, and although we cannot speak like gentlemen, Lord Ramachandra has nevertheless accepted us as friends. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. In a prayer to Krishna expressing her feelings, Srimati Kunti Devi called him Akinchana Gochara, which means the prefix a means not, and kinchana, something of this material world. So not of this material world. One may be very proud of his prestigious position, material wealth, beauty, education, and so on. But although these are certainly good qualifications in material dealings, they are not necessary for achieving friendship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. One who possesses all these material qualities is expected to become a devotee. And when he actually does, the qualities are properly utilized. Those who are puffed up by a high birth, wealth, education, and personal beauty, Janmat Swarya Shruti Sti, unfortunately do not care for developing Krishna consciousness. Nor does the Supreme Personality of Godhead care about all these material qualifications. The Supreme Lord is achieved by devotion. Bhaktya mam abhijanati. One's devotion and sincere desire to serve the Supreme Personality of Godhead are the only qualifications. Rupa Goswami has also said that the price for achieving God's favor is simply one's sincere eagerness to have it. Lolam ekam amulyam. In the Chaitanya Bhagavata it is said, Kulavecha Seva Kera Deka Bhagyasima Brahma Shiva Kande Yara Dekiya Mahima Dane Jane Pandike Krishna Nahi Pai Kevala Bhaktira Vasa Chaitanya Goshai. Behold the great fortune of the devotee Kulavacha. Lord Brahma and Shiva shed tears upon seeing his greatness. One cannot attain Lord Krishna by any amount of wealth, followers, or learning. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is controlled only by pure devotion. Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had a very sincere devotee whose name was Kolavecha Sridhar, and whose only business was to sell pots made of the skin of banana trees. Whatever income he had, he used 50% for the worship of Mother Ganges, and with the other 50%, he provided for his necessities. On the whole, he was so very poor that he lived in a cottage that had a broken roof with many holes in it. He could not afford brass utensils, and therefore he drank water from an iron pot. Nevertheless, he was a great devotee of Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He is a typical example of how a poor man with no material possessions can become a most exalted devotee of the Lord. The conclusion is that one cannot attain shelter at the lotus feet of Lord Krishna or Sri Chaitanya Goswami through material opulences. That shelter is attainable only by pure devotional service. Anya vilasita sunyam yana karma vinavritam anakuyani Krishna sunam bhakti uttama. One should render transcendental, loving service to the Supreme Lord Krishna favorably and without desire for material profit or gain through fruitive activities or philosophical speculation. That is called pure devotion service. Haribol, very good statements. Text number 8. Therefore, whether one is a demigod or a demon, a man or a creature other than man, such as a beast or bird, everyone should worship Lord Ramachandra, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who appears on this earth just like a human being. There is no need of great austerities or penances to worship the Lord, for he accepts even a small service offered by his devotee. Thus thus he is satisfied, and as soon as he is satisfied, the devotee is successful. Indeed, Lord Sri Ramachandra brought all the devotees of Ayodhya back home, back to Godhead, Vaikuntha. Wow, that's a big effort. Purport. Lord Sri Ramachandra is so kind and merciful to his devotees that he is very easily satisfied by a little service rendered by anyone, human or not. This is the special advantage of worshiping Lord Ramachandra. And there is the same advantage in worshiping Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Lord Krishna and Lord Ramachandra, in the manner of Kshatriyas, sometimes showed their mercy by killing asuras, but Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu awarded love of God without difficulty even to the asuras. All the incarnations of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but especially Lord Ramachandra, Lord Krishna, and later Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, delivered many of the living entities present before them. Indeed, almost all of them. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is therefore represented in the six-armed form of Sadpuja Murti, which is a combination of Lord Ramachandra, Lord Krishna, and Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. The best purpose of human life can be fulfilled by worshipping the Sadbhuja Murti, the form of the Lord with 6 arms, 2 arms of Ramachandra, 2 arms of Krishna, and 2 arms of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Text number 9. Sukadeva Goswami continued. The glories of the Supreme Personality of Godhead are inconceivable. He has appeared in the form of Narayana, Narayana, in the land of Bharatvarsha, at the place known as Badarik Ashram, to favor his devotees by teaching them religious knowledge, renunciation, spiritual power, sense control, and freedom from false ego. He is advanced in the opulence of spiritual assets and the and he engages in executing austerity until the end of this millennium. This is the process of self-realization. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. People in India may visit the temple of Narayana at Badarik Ashrama just to learn how the Supreme Personality of Godhead, in his incarnation as Narayana, engages in austerities to teach the people of the world how to achieve self-realization. It is impossible to realize oneself simply by absorbing oneself in speculation and material activities. One must be very serious about self-realization and the practice of austerity. Unfortunately, the people of this age of Kali do not even know the meaning of austerity. Under these circumstances, the Lord has appeared as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to bestow upon the fallen souls the easiest method of self-realization, technically called Cheto Darpana Marjanam, cleansing of the dirt from the core of one's heart. This method is extremely simple. Anyone can chant the glorious Krishna Sankirtana. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. In this age, there are different forms of so-called advanced scientific knowledge, such as anthropology, Marxism, Freudianism, nationalism, and industrialism. But if we work very hard under their guidance, instead of adopting the process practiced by Narayana, we shall waste our valuable human form of life. Thus, we shall certainly be cheated and misled. Text number 10. In his own book, known as Narada Pancharatra, Bhagavan Narada has very vividly described how to work to achieve the ultimate goal of life: devotion. Through knowledge and through execution of the mystic yoga system. He has also described the glories of the Lord, the Supreme Personality of God. The great sage Narada instructed the tenets of this transcendental literature to Savarni Manu in order to teach those inhabitants of Bharatavarsha who strictly follow the principles of Varnashrama Dharma how to achieve the devotional service of the Lord. Thus, Narada Muni, along with other inhabitants of Bharatavarsha, always engages in the service of Narayana, and he chants as follows. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has clearly declared, Bharata Bhumite Haida Manusya Janma Yar. Janma Sartha Karikara Para Upakara. The real success or fulfillment of the mission of human life can be achieved in India, Bharata Varsa, because in Bharata Varsa, the purpose of life and the method for achieving success are evident. People should take advantage of the opportunity afforded by Bharata Varsa, and this is especially so for those who are following the principles of Varnashrama Dharma. If we do not take to the principles of Varnashrama Dharma by accepting the four social orders, Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, and Sudra, and the four orders of spiritual life, Brahmachari, Grihastha, Vanaprastha, and Sannyasa, there can be no question of success in life. Unfortunately, because of the influence of Kali Yuga, everything is now being lost. The inhabitants of Bharatavarsha are gradually becoming degraded malechas and yavanas. How then will they teach others? Therefore, this Krishna consciousness movement has been started not only for the inhabitants of Bharatavarsha, but for all the people of the world, as announced by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. There is still time, and if the inhabitants of Bharatavarsha take the movement of Krishna consciousness seriously, the entire world will be saved from gliding down to a hellish condition. Haribol. The Krishna consciousness movement follows the process of Pancharatrika Vidhi and that of Bhagavata Vidhi simultaneously, so that people can take advantage of the movement and make their lives successful. Yeah, well, nobody wants to be a loser, but without becoming a devotee engaged in devotional service is a loser. No, even if it is very rich or famous or very handsome or beautiful, one is still a loser. But when one becomes a devotee, a humble and very serious devotee, it becomes successful in achieving the goal of human life, which is going back to Godhead. You don't achieve the benediction of going back to Godhead by engaging in sense gratification and eating flesh and so forth. But when you give up all those bad habits and chant Hare Krishna sincerely, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, and chant the holy name of the Lord, then Krishna is on your side and will help you in every way to make spiritual advancement. Text number 11 says, Let me offer my respectful obeisances unto Nara Narayan, the best of all saintly persons, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He is the most self controlled and self realized. He is free from false prestige, and he is the asset of persons who have no material possessions. He is the supreme master of all Paramahansas, who are the most exalted human beings. And he is the master of the self realization. I'm sorry. He is master of the self realized. Let me offer my repeated obeisances at his lotus feet. Haribol. Text number 12. Narada, the most powerful saintly sage, also worships Nara Narayana by chanting the following mantra. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is the master of the creation, maintenance, and annihilation of this visible cosmic manifestation. Yet, he is completely free from false prestige. Although to the foolish, he appears to have accepted a material body like us. He is unaffected by bodily tribulations like hunger, thirst, and fatigue, although he is the witness who sees everything. His senses are unpolluted by the objects he sees. Let me offer my respectful obeisances unto the unattached, pure witness of the world, the Son, the Supreme Soul, the Personality of Godhead. Okay. So let me offer my respectful obeisances unto that unattached, pure witness of the world, the Supreme Lord, the Supreme Soul, the Personality of Godhead. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, is described as Sach Chit Ananda Vigraha, the body of eternity, transcendental bliss, and full knowledge. Now, in this verse, he is more fully described. Krishna is the creator of the cosmic manifestation, yet he is unattached to it. If he were to construct a very tall skyscraper, we would be very attached to it. But Krishna is so renounced that although he has created everything, he is not attached to anything. Na badyate. Furthermore, although Krishna has his transcendental form, Satchit Ananda Vigraha, he is not disturbed by the bodily necessities of life, which he calls Daihika. For example, he is ever hungry, thirsty or fatigued. Nahanyate dehagatopi dai kai. Then again, since everything is Krishna's property, he sees everything and is present everywhere. But because his body is transcendental, he is above vision, the objects of vision, and the process of vision. When we see someone beautiful, we are attracted. The sight of a beautiful woman immediately attracts a man at the edge, at the sight of a man naturally, no, and the sight of a man naturally attracts a woman. Krishna, however, is transcendental to all these faults. Although he is the seer of everything, he is not afflicted with faulty vision. Nadrig yasya gunar vidus yate. Therefore, although he is the witness and seer, he is aloof from all affections for activities he sees. He is always unattached and separate. He is only a witness. Okay, very good information. Text 13. Oh, my Lord, master of all mystic yoga, this is the explanation of the yogic process spoken of by Lord Brahma, Hiranyagarbha, who is self realized. At the time of death, all yogis give up the material body with full detachment simply by placing their minds at your lotus feet. That is the perfection of yoga. Well, yeah, if you can remember Krishna at the moment of death, you go back to Godhead. And that is the perfection of yoga. Purports. She, Madhavacharya says, Yasya samyak bhagavati jnanam bhaktis tataivacha nischintas tasya moksha syat sarva papa prito pitu. This is a nice verse. For one who is very serious, practices devotional service during his lifetime in order to understand the constitutional position of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Liberation from this material world is guaranteed, even if he has previously been addicted to sinful habits. This is also confirmed in Bhagavad Gita. Apichet Sudara Charo Bhajante Mam Ananyabha Sadureva Samantavya Samyak Vyavasito Isa. Even if one commits the most abominable actions, if he is engaged in devotional service, he is to be considered saintly because he is properly situated. Bhagavad Gita 9:30. The only purpose of life is to be fully absorbed in thoughts of Krishna and his form, pastimes, activities, and qualities. If one is able to think of Krishna in this way, 24 hours a day, he is already liberated. Swarupena Vivavastati. Whereas materialists are absorbed in material thoughts and activities, devotees, on the contrary, are always absorbed in thoughts of Krishna and Krishna's activities. Therefore, they are already on the platform of liberation. One has to think of Krishna with full absorption at the time of death. Then he will certainly return home back to Godhead without a doubt. Okay, well, that is our takeaway for today, right there. It says, uh, whereas materialists are absorbed in material thoughts and activities, devotees, on the contrary, are always absorbed in thoughts of Krishna and Krishna's activities. Therefore, they are greatly on the they are already, on the contrary, um, they are always absorbed in thoughts of Krishna and Krishna's activities. Therefore, they are already on the platform of liberation. One has to think of Krishna with full absorption at the time of death. Then he will certainly return home back to Godhead without a doubt. That's nice, without a doubt. Text 14. Materialists are generally very attached to their present bodily comforts and to the bodily comforts they expect in the future. Therefore, they are always absorbed in thoughts of their wives, children, and wealth, and are afraid of they are afraid of giving up their bodies, which are full of stool and urine. If a person engaged in Krishna consciousness, however, is also afraid of giving up his body, what is the use of his having labored to study the Shastras if we simply waste time? Okay. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. At the time of death, a materialist thinks of his wife and children. He is absorbed in thinking of how they will live and who will take care of them after he leaves. Consequently, he is never prepared to give up this body. Rather, he wants to continue to live in this body to serve his society, family, friendship, and wants and so let's see. Consequently, he is never prepared to give up his body. Rather, he wants to continue to live in his body to serve his society, family, friends, and so on. Therefore, by practicing the mystic yoga system, one must become detached from bodily relationships. If, despite practicing bhakti yoga and studying all the Vedic literature, one is afraid of giving up his bad body, which is the cause of all his suffering, what is the use of his attempts to advance in spiritual life? The secret of success is practicing yoga. In practicing yoga, is to become free from bodily attachments. Srila Narottam Dasa Thakur says, Deha smriti nasti yaya samsara bandhana kahan tara. One whose practice has freed him from the anxieties of bodily needs is no longer in conditional life. Such a person is free from conditional bondage. A person in Krishna consciousness must fully discharge his devotional duties without material attachment. Then his liberation is guaranteed. Okay. One must, therefore, fully discharge one's devotional duties without material attachment. Then his liberation is guaranteed. Text number 15. Therefore, O Lord, O Transcendence, kindly help us by giving us the power to execute Bhakti Yoga so that we can control pure, restless minds. So that we can control our restless minds and fix them upon you. We are all infected by your illusory energy. Therefore, we are very attached to the body, which is full of stool and urine, and to anything related to this body, except for devotional service. There is no way to give up this attachment. Therefore, kindly bestow upon us this benediction. Yeah, it's a beautiful statement. Purport. The Lord advises in Bhagavad Gita, Man manabhava bhakto madhyajimam namaskuru. The perfect yoga system consists of always thinking of Krishna, always engaging in devotional service, always worshiping Krishna, and always offering obeisances unto him. Unless we practice this yoga system, our illusory attachment for this bad body, which is full of all stool and urine, is impossible to give up. The perfection of yoga consists of giving up attachment to this body and bodily relationships and transcending that achievement to Krishna. We are very attached to every equipment. To material. We are attached to material enjoyment. But when we transfer that, same attachment to Krishna, we traverse the path of liberation. One has to practice this yoga system and none other. Text 16. In the tract of land known as Bharatvarsha, as in Ilavrita there are many mountains and rivers. Some of the mountains are known as Malaya, Mangala, Prasta, Mainaka, Trikuta, Rishava, Kutaka, Kolaka, Saya, Devagiri, Rishyamukha, Srisaila, Venkata, Mahendra, Varidhara, Vindhya, Saktimam, Riksagiri, Pariyatra, Drona, Chitrakuta, Govardhana, Raivataka, Kakubhya, Nila, Gokamuka, Indra Gila, and Kamagiri. Besides these, there are many other hills with many large and small rivers flowing from their slopes. Text 17 and 18. Two of the rivers, the Brahmaputra and the Sona, are called nadas, or main rivers. These are other great rivers that are very prominent. Chandravasa, Tampraparni, Avatoda, Pitamala, Vahayasi, Kaveri, Veni, Piyasvini, Sakarata, Tungabhadra, Krishna Vena, Bimarati, Godavadi, Nirvindya, Payosni, Tapa, Reva, Surdasa, Narmada, Karmanvati, Mahanadi, Vedasmiti, Rikshikuya, Trisama, Koshiki, Mandakini, Yamuna, Saraswati, Trisavati, Gomati, Sarayu, Rodaswati, Saptavati, Suma, Satadru, Chandravaga, Madhu Dvirida, Vitasta, Asini, and Visva. The inhabitants of Bharatavarsa are purified because they always remember these rivers. Sometimes they chant the names of these rivers as mantras, and sometimes they go directly to the rivers to touch them and bathe in them. Thus, the inhabitants of Bharatavarsa become purified. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. All these rivers are transcendental. Therefore, one can be purified by remembering them, touching them, or bathing in them. This practice is still going on. Yeah, people are still taking baths in these different holy rivers. Text 19. The people who take birth in this tract of land are divided according to the qualities of material nature. The modes of goodness, sattva guna, passion, raja guna, and ignorance, tama guna. Some of them are born as exalted personalities. Some are ordinary human beings, and some are extremely abominable. For in Bharatvarsha, one takes birth exactly according to one's past dharma. If one's position is ascertained by a bona fide spiritual master, and one is properly trained to engage in the service of Lord Vishnu according to the four social divisions, Brahmana and Kshatriya and Vaishya and Sudra, and the four spiritual divisions, Brahmachari, Grihastha, Vanaprastha, and Sannyasa, one's life becomes perfect. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. For further information, one should refer to Bhagavad Gita 14.18 and 18.42 to 45. Srila Ramanujacharya writes in his book Vedanta Sangraha. He writes, quoting from the Vishnu Purana 389, the general page of Varaha Murti, Parasara Muni has recommended Varnashrama Charavata Purushena Parakramam Vishnur Aradyate Panta Nanya Tattva Karanam. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Vishnu, is worshipable by the proper execution of prescribed duties in the system of Varna and Ashrams. There is no other way to satisfy the Lord. In the land of Bharatvarsa, the institution of Varnashram Dharma may be easily adopted. At the present moment, certain demoniac sections of the population of Bharatvarsa are disregarding the system of Varnashrama Dharma because there is no institution to teach the system. People now to become Brahmanas, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, and Sudras, or Brahmacharis, Grihastas, Vanaprasthas, and Sannyasis. These demons want a classless society. This is resulting in chaotic conditions. In the name of secular government, unqualified people are taking the supreme governmental posts. No one is being trained to act according to the principles of Varnasrama Dharma. And thus, people are becoming increasingly degraded and are heading in the direction of animal life. The real aim of life is liberation, but unfortunately, the opportunity for liberation is being denied to people in general, and therefore their human lives are being spoiled. The Krishna consciousness movement, however, is being propagated all over the world to reestablish the Varnashram Dharma system and thus save human society from gliding down to hellish life. Haribol. Text 20. After many, many births, when the results of one's pious activities mature, one gets an opportunity to associate with pure devotees. Then one is able to cut the knot of bondage to ignorance, which bound him because of varied fruitive activities. As a result of associating with devotees, one gradually renders service to Lord Vasudeva, who is transcendental, free from attachment to the material world, beyond the mind and words, and independent of everything else. That is bhakti yoga, devotional service to Lord Vasudeva, is the real path of liberation. So that bhakti yoga, devotional service to Lord Vasudeva, is the real path of liberation. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Brahman realization is the beginning of liberation, and Paramatma realization is still further advancement toward the realm of liberation. But one achieves real liberation when he understands his position as an eternal servant of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Muktir hitvanyata rupam swarupena vyavastati. In the material world, in bodily concept of life, everyone is working in the wrong direction. When one becomes Brahma Bhuta, spiritual realized, one understands that he is not the body and that the working in the bodily concept of life is useless and misdirected. Then his devotional service begins. As Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita 18.54, Brahma Bhuta Prasanatma Nasochatina Kansati Samapsarve Subhutesu Madbhaktim Lakpate Param. One who is thus transcendently situated realizes the supreme Brahman and becomes fully joyful. He never laments or desires to have anything. He is equally disposed to every living entity. In that state, he attains pure devotional service unto me. Devotional service is actual liberation when one is attached to the beauty of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and his mind is always engaged at the Lord's lotus feet. He no longer, and he is, in other words, he loses all attraction for not being, not, I'm sorry, let's start over again. In that state, he attains pure devotional service unto me, meaning Krishna. Devotional service is actual liberation. When one is attracted to the beauty of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and his mind is always engaged at the Lord's lotus feet, he is no longer interested in subjects that do not help him in self realization. In other words, he loses all attraction for material activities. To the Taittiriya Upanishad 2.7, it is said, Esa hi evanandati yada ki evaisa etasmin na drisye nat mie anirukte nila yane vayam pratisthanam vindate ta so vayam dato bhavati. A living entity becomes established in spiritual blissful life when he fully understands that his happiness depends on spiritual self-realization, which is the basic principle of ananda, bliss, and when he eternally when he is eternally situated in the service of the Lord, who has no other Lord above him. Text 21. Since the human form of life is the sublime position for spiritual realization, all the demigods in heaven speak in this way. How wonderful it is for these human beings to have been born in the land of Bharatvarsha. They must have executed pious activities of austerity in the past, or the Supreme Personality of Godhead himself must have been pleased with them. Otherwise, how could they engage in devotional service in so many ways? We demigods can only aspire to achieve human birth in Bharata Varsa to execute devotional service. But these human beings are already engaged there. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. These facts are further explained in Chaitanya Charitamrita, Adi 9.41. Bhavata bhumite haida manusya janma yar, janma sartaka kari kara para upakar. One who has taken his birth as a human being in the land of India, Bharatvarsha, should make his life successful and work for the benefit of all other people. That's what we do. There are many facilities in India, Bharatvarsha, for executing devotional service. In Bharatvarsha, all the acharyas all the acharyas contributed their experience, and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu personally appeared to teach the people of Bharatavarsa how to progress in spiritual life and be fixed in devotional service to the Lord. From all points of view, Bharatavarsa is the special and a special land where one can very easily understand the process of material service and adopt it to make his life successful. If one makes his life successful in devotional service and then preaches devotional service in other parts of the world, people throughout the world will actually benefit. Okay. Text 22. The demigods continue. After performing the very difficult tasks of executing Vedic ritualistic sacrifices, undergoing austerities, observing vows, and giving charity, we have achieved this position as inhabitants of the heavenly planets. But what is the value of this achievement here? Of this achievement here, we are certainly very engaged in mundane gratification, sense gratification, engaged in material sense gratification. And therefore, we can hardly remember the lotus feet of Lord Narayana. Indeed, because of our excessive sense gratification, we have almost forgotten his lotus feet. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. The land of Bharatavarsa is so exalted that by taking birth there, one can not only attain the heavenly planets, but also go directly back home, back to Godhead. As Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita 9:25, Yanti Deva Vrata Devan, Pitrin Yanti Pitrivrata, Bhutani Yanti Bhuteja Yanti Mad Yajina Pimam. Those who worship the demigods will take birth among the demigods. Those who worship ghosts and spirits will take birth among such beings. Those who worship ancestors go to the ancestors. And those who worship me, meaning Krishna, will live with me. People in the land of Bharatvarsa generally follow the Vedic principles and consequently perform great sacrifices by which they can be elevated to the heavenly planets. However, what is the use of such great attainments? As stated in Bhagavad Gita 9:21, Sine punye martya lokam vishanti. After the results of one's sacrifices, charity, and other pious activities expire, one must return to the lower planetary systems and again feel the pangs of birth and death. However, one who becomes Krishna conscious can go back to him, back to Krishna. Yanti Mad Yajina Pima. Yanti Mad Yajina Pimam. Therefore, the demigods even regret having been elevated to the higher planetary systems. The denizens of the heavenly planets regret that they could not take full advantage of being born in the land of Bharatvarsa. Instead, they become captivated by a higher standard of sense gratification, and therefore they forget the lotus feet of Lord Narayana at the time of death. Well, that's unfortunate. The conclusion is that one who has taken birth in the land of Bharatvarsha must follow the instructions given personally by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Yad gatva na nivartante tadama paramambama. One should try to return home back to Godhead, to the Vaikuntha planets, or to, in other words, one should try to return home back to Godhead, to the Vaikuntha planets, or to the topmost Vaikuntha planet, Goloka Vrindavana, to live eternally in full blissful knowledge in the company of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That, my dear devotees, is the takeaway for today. One should try to return home back to Godhead, to the Vaikuntha planets, or to the topmost Vaikuntha planet, Goloka Vrindavana, to live eternally in full blissful knowledge in the company of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Thank you very much, my dear devotees. Are there any questions or comments? Any questions or comments? Okay, if there are no questions or comments, our takeaway for today. Yadgatva nivartante taddama paramam mama. One should try to return home, back to Godhead, to the Vaikuntha planets, or to the topmost Vaikuntha planet, Goloka Vrindavana, to live eternally in full blissful knowledge in the company of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Thank you very much, my dear devotees. Chant Hare Krishna and be happy. Have nice prasadam. Hear nice lectures given by devotees. And when you're getting this wonderful election, one should take heed of this wonderful statement. Yadgatva nivartante taddama paramam mama. One should try to return home, back to Godhead, to the Vaikuntha planets, or to the topmost Vaikuntha planet, Goloka Vrindavana, to live eternally in full blissful knowledge in the company of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This is our takeaway for today. Thank you very much, my dear devotees. We should all be, let's say, very enthusiastic to live eternally in full blissful knowledge in the company of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Hare Krishna.